Hello. So I have a student that is going to be 30 minutes late, so I've got a few minutes to sit with you and talk. And something that's been on my mind for a few days, seeing a lot of people's knife videos and knife fighting videos and knife sparring videos. So I wanted to do something for you. Also, another gentleman put a really good post up on edge weapon training that I thought was really good, and I agree with 100%, and wanted to elaborate a little bit on how I think about and how I teach a knife. And one of the things that oftentimes is not considered right away is the fact that when you're training with a knife in a knife curriculum, typically you're using some sort of generic aluminum, plastic, or rubber, foam training knife, which is nothing wrong with, okay? It's a knife. However, when you're talking about knife fighting, and let's get this straight right away, there is a huge difference between knife fighting and knife sparring, because sparring is a agreed upon match where no one's going to get killed, and a knife fight is something that's pretty serious, and there's a good chance that you may not walk away from that. And something else, right off the top, whatever kind of knife you carry or decide to carry, you need to think through, because later on, if something happens, you're going to have to explain why you have that kind of knife. And right now you might say, I don't care, but you say that and you get a speeding ticket, suddenly you care about speeding. So you have something happen, and you're going to care that you can explain away what you're carrying and why. So in Texas, it's legal to carry any kind of edge weapon, even a spear or a sword. If you want to carry that, you can probably carry a bazooka if you register. Okay, so let's talk about the knife you carry and how you determine how you're going to use that. I think that it's really important in my knife curriculum, in my knife system. One of your first things on level 1 is you have to take your knife, whatever your knife is. Okay, and I don't have a folder handy right now. I'm not a knife collector. I have maybe 10 or 100 knives, I don't know, okay? But I just have a couple here. Folding knives are good and they have their place. But I just don't have one in my hand. I have to walk off camera. Now, this knife here is one of my favorite knives. It's a dagger. It's really nice, beautiful knife. It has a good wire handle for when it gets bloody. It's not going to slip out of your hand. It has a good hand guard. It has a good spike at the end to use. It's very narrow and pointy, and it's really a beautiful knife as well. And it was a gift to me from my students. I had a set of these, okay, really nice. One's smaller and one's bigger. Now this was one of my favorite knives, and I still love it. It's quite a nice knife. However, performance is important. So I like it too because it has a clip right on you can carry that. Just clip it on anywhere you want. Beautiful. However, once again, performance, is important. So when I take the knife and I use it, I'm going to stab something hard. I might just use my throwing target to stab, and I see how the knife performs. Then I stab something of a medium density, okay, so say like the rib cage. I'm not going to stab an animal in my school. It's a mess, really. So I use an archery target, and then you could stab something soft, okay, which usually would be another kind of a target for archery or knife throwing, okay? But that one's ruined right now. So I have this. So I take a knife like this, a very plain knife. And again, it's a fixed blade, but it's very plain. This is a Finnish Army Ranger knife. It was given to me by my schools in Finland. Even has my name on the little side there. So this is a really plain Jane knife. It doesn't have a hand guard. It doesn't have anything fancy about it. It's got a good grip. It's rubber. And it's just really ordinary, nothing special about it. However, its performance in the testing that I just talked about, stabbing something, cutting something, is quite excellent. Whereas the other knife, which believe me, I like that knife too, if you're one of the guys who bought that for me. The performance just isn't there. In fact, you would think that the other knife, the dagger, would penetrate quite well because it is narrow and very pointy. However, that's not the case. It doesn't penetrate quite well. You stab a hard surface with it, and you find out, well, the grip that's wired, that's made not to slip if it gets bloody, it really will cut your hand. Okay, it will tear your hand up. The hand guard can be painful as well when you stab something hard with it. When you stab something medium, it still doesn't penetrate well. It doesn't go in quite as good as you would think. You would think, in fact, it would be superior, okay? It's not. The tip of it is so fine that it's easy to break that if you're not careful. Whereas this knife, you know, like I said, it's kind of ordinary, you know, utilitarian knife. Military knives usually are. But its performance is grand. You know, it will penetrate like butter. It cuts and slashes well. And I can use it as an offensive knife and a defensive knife. And we could talk about that subject another time. Because, you know, there's a saying, blade isn't any good for self-defense if you cannot attack with it. So if you can't attack, your self-defense is not really a possibility. However, now, and I don't know who said that, it might have been me, okay? There's a saying as well, you know, an offensive blade isn't necessarily good for defense, okay? So I don't know who said that either. Could have been me too, I don't know, okay? But I know I heard it many times, so those two things. And that's something that I think is important that you think about when you decide what kind of blade you're gonna invest in and carry. And if you're like me, you know, I don't think I have very many knives I actually bought myself. Yeah, I don't even know if I have one. I know I have one knife here that I purchased, okay? I think every other knife that I have, at least here, no, two, okay? So two I purchased. The rest, I believe, were gifts given to me, including my swords and those things were gifts. So, you know, I don't necessarily go around shopping for knives. I'm not a knife collector, like I said, but I do practice with knives that I own. So all the knives that I own, I have given a test. The test that I had talked about earlier. I practice stabbing things. So if I go to this here, now this is a little bit low and I don't know if you can see it, but if I take this knife here that goes into the hilt with very little pressure, and it comes out pretty easily. Now I take the other knife, okay, and I'm going to give it a test. I'm going to be honest, I'm going to give it about the same amount of energy, and that thing is sticking out. It's only gone in about 3 inches. So what you say, well, that's enough. That's not the point, okay? Pardon the pun. It doesn't go in as easy as the other one does. And it doesn't feel good in my hand, and the other one does. So when you decide you're gonna pick a knife that you're gonna carry, make sure it feels good in your hand. Okay, and don't just wave it around in the air. I see way too much of that shit going on. Bro, when you make contact with something, the pattern that you're doing in the air is going to completely change. As soon as you make contact with something, it's gonna throw you off. So it's better you kind of maybe practice that. And you could use a training knife and practice on a tree or a heavy bag or bob. And you'll find the patterns change. Usually if I go like that's because that missed, and so that's the next thrust and slash. But if I go like that and I make contact, maybe that thing doesn't go like that, like that, like that. So you have to think about these things when you're practicing, okay? Otherwise, what you're gonna do is you're gonna end up, and God forbid, you end up in that situation where you're having to deal with 4 or 5 dudes that want to, you know, put you in the ground, and you're relying on your blade solely to defend yourself. But if that situation does arise, and you haven't practiced with your knife, now you're going to come to the realization very quickly, well, whatever you practiced is not going to happen that way, and you're going to go into shock, okay? There's going to be, you know, over and above the normal amount of stress level that you're going to be under in that situation. You know, having your blade malfunction or not function, or whatever you thought was going to happen as you use that knife from practicing. I see a lot of guys really, really good with a blade, better than me, because I don't practice like that, you know. But I don't know how it's going to play out in that situation where there's contact, okay, and penetration, okay. And remember, slashes, you know, they do damage, but, you know, may not initially create the stoppage that you're looking for, particularly if you're engaged with more than one person, okay? And that is not a knife fight in your mind, because you're thinking, I got a knife, he's got a knife, we're gonna do this. You might, in a self-defense situation, typically find that you're being actually preyed upon by people who do that for their job. They look for people who are, they think, vulnerable, and they're going to try to take you out to get your vehicle, to get your money, to get whatever it is you're wearing around your neck or on your wrist. I never wear jewelry. I never wear any jewelry, no watch, no necklaces, right? I don't carry anything. I don't dress with anything that anybody's gonna want, okay, unless you want my shirt, you know. So, you know, when you're out there doing your thing, you got to really plan for that. And then one of the other things that I teach, you know, and talk about in my program, and most of this, you know, this is a home study program, so most of this is for you to self-discovery. How do you access your blade and where do you carry it? I don't tell you where to carry your weapon. I ask you, Where do you carry it? Where are you going to carry it? First of all, what kind of blade do you have? You have a folder, so you want to carry it on the inside of your belt. You want to carry it in your pocket. Everybody carries it right here in their pocket, right? Now, I did this in Ohio at Club MMA. I asked the guys, saying, okay, get your knife. Where do you carry it? Like, I got their knife, they put it in their thing. I said, draw it out. So you got shorts on. The knife doesn't want to come out because the shorts are giving. You're wearing jeans, maybe that comes off a little easier, but you're wearing shorts now. Do you wear those shorts? Yeah, I wear them around. Do you carry your knife in it? Yeah, I carry the knife there. Okay, so now you're in contact, dealing with somebody, and you can't get your knife out. Common thing happens to law enforcement trying to draw their firearm. And you know, they have a retention holster, which to keep people from getting it from you. Now it keeps you from getting it out if you don't practice drawing in contact. So that's another thing that we talk about is practicing, you know, drawing your blade. Just practice on your own, then practice having someone just tap you on the shoulder while you do that. And you're gonna find out, hey, that will mess you up. If you practice, just do 100 draws with your knife. Wherever I like to carry mine on my hip so I could do left or right access. But if you say you carry in your folder, right, and practice 100 draws, draw and open, draw and open, draw and open 100 times. Then have your friend tap you on the shoulder and draw and open. And see if it goes as smoothly as it did before. Okay, then have your friend pushing you, just pushing you a little bit and draw and open. Think about that, bro, because, you know, is that the last thing you're going to practice after 15 years of training with the knife? Or is it should be the first, it's level 1? I don't know, man. You know, I mean, in my program, you got to think about that right away. What kind of knife are you going to carry? What is it for? I mean, and a lot of times people carry a knife, you know, they're using it at work, they're using it to open boxes, they're using it to cut bands off of pallets, whatever. Good, do that, you know, good. And that gives you some familiarity with drawing and using it all the time too. However, you know, if you're carrying a knife for self-defense, a lot of people like a karambit, okay? Oh, you know, are you practicing drawing and using that? And, you know, how do you attack with it? How do you defend with it? You know, in that situation where you're in contact already. Because I don't know the situation where you're there and you pull a knife on me and I pull my knife out, right? And then we're gonna have at you, right? And we're gonna have a fencing match. I mean, if I see you and you got a knife, I'm trying to get the hell away from you, and I'm not gonna run because I'm fat and I don't wanna hurt my legs, right? But I'm gonna get away from you, okay? But it doesn't mean I'm not gonna have something myself, you know, ready for you. So that's also where we get into, there's a difference between sparring with a knife and fighting with a knife, because the context is completely different. You might not even want to fight. Now you're in a different situation. Have you even thought about plunging a knife into someone's rib cage, stopping their heart? Have you even thought about cutting their thumb off, right? Or cutting their face? You're gonna have to do that, bro, if you want to get through that thing, you know. So pulling the knife and waving it around, not such a good idea. It could take your life. So I'm going to say goodbye. My student should be here in 4 minutes. So thank you. I hope you got a chance to see this. I don't know, because I haven't really done many live videos in the last couple years.